What if the Montreal Canadiens, a franchise meticulously navigating a complex and patient rebuild, became the target of media rumors so utterly disconnected from reality, so laughably out of sync with the current NHL calendar, that it borders on journalistic malpractice? That's the absurd scenario we're forced to dissect today, as a recent report, with a straight face, attempts to generate dramatic urgency around a supposed aggressive desperation from our front office to acquire Robert Thomas from the St. Louis Blues. The kicker? This desperate pursuit is framed around the crucial trade deadline of March 6. Klaus, look at the calendar. Today is March 27th, 2026. The National Hockey League's trade deadline passed 3 weeks ago. The window is slammed shut. To attempt to sell engagement based on a crucial deadline that's firmly in our rearview mirror is the definitive proof that some sports media outlets are simply recycling old drafts without even glancing at the clock. This isn't just a factual error. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the very ecosystem in which NHL teams operate. It demands a thorough, line-by-line dissection for our intelligent audience. We are not just going to laugh at this egregious calendar blunder. We are going to take this absurd trade simulation, place it under the heavy lights of our tactical operations room, and meticulously slice through every argument that attempts to suggest our general manager, Kent Hughes, would throw years of surgical rebuilding and meticulous financial planning into the garbage for Robert Thomas of the St. Louis Blues. This isn't about dismissing a player's talent. It's about safeguarding the integrity of our franchise's long-term vision and exposing the sheer logic of such a proposition. Let's begin by dissecting the very backbone of any championship team in the National Hockey League: the salary cap and the hierarchical structure of the locker room. The report throws Robert Thomas's name into the air as if he were the final, indispensable piece of a puzzle, highlighting his contract, an 8-year, $65 million deal, which translates to an annual cap hit of $8.125 million, extending all the way to the 2030-31 season. Is Thomas an excellent player? Absolutely. He is, without a shadow of a doubt, a first-line center, an elite playmaker, a player who distributes assists with the precision of a surgeon. His vision, his hockey IQ, his ability to control the pace of play. These are all undeniable attributes that make him a highly coveted asset in the league. But you know who our first-line center and elite playmaker is? Our captain, Nick Suzuki. And you know what Nick Suzuki's salary is? $7.875 million annually. Now, this isn't about comparing their raw talent directly, but about the internal financial architecture that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton have painstakingly constructed within the corridors of the Bell Center. There's an unwritten yet incredibly clear rule: the Suzuki ceiling. Our number 14 is the undisputed heart of the franchise, the unquestioned leader, the player who faces the music in both victories and defeats. When Cole Caulfield signed his long-term contract, what was his cap hit? $7.85 million. These aren't coincidences, my friends. This is high-level ego management. This is ensuring that no one in the locker room believes they are bigger than the St. Flannel crest itself. Now, this media outlet suggests that our front office would go into the market mid-season to acquire an outside player, pay him over $8.1 million annually, immediately shattering the internal salary structure that took 3 years of financial engineering to perfectly calibrate. Bringing in a player earning more than the captain to potentially split first-line minutes and power play ice time is the perfect script for creating unnecessary corporate noise in a roster that has finally found its chemistry and its identity. Robert Thomas is a brilliant player, but he is not a Connor McDavid or Nathan MacKinnon, whose generational talent would justify the immediate implosion of our carefully constructed financial hierarchy. The very notion that Hughes would entertain such a move, especially for a player whose role would inevitably overlap with existing, highly paid talent, demonstrates a profound misunderstanding of how a modern, successful NHL franchise manages its most valuable resource, its cap space. But the absurdity of this article reaches stratospheric levels when we examine the supposed asking price from the St. Louis Blues. The article cites, with the utmost casualness, that GM Doug Armstrong's demand would be the equivalent of for first-round assets, specifically mentioning our top offensive prospect, Michael Hage, and our absolute defensive pillar, Caden Gould. Stop everything you are doing and reflect on the sheer insanity of this proposition. Caden Gould is not just a defenseman on our roster. He is a reinforced concrete foundation upon which our future defense is being built. We are talking about a young man who skates like the wind, who possesses the size and physicality of a bulldozer, who devours the most difficult minutes of the game, playing against the first lines of every opponent in the league night after night. Defensemen with goals profile are what executives call corporate unicorns. You spend years drafting, developing, enduring the grind in the minor leagues, until you finally find a player like him. And the article's proposal is to simply wrap up this unicorn as a present, put a red bow on it, throw in Michael Hage, who is a spectacular offensive talent we just drafted in the first round, into the package, and send everything to Missouri. If Kent Hughes walked into the boardroom and suggested trading Caden Gould for a playmaking center when our system already boasts Nick Suzuki and Kirby Dach, he would be immediately interdicted by the franchise owners. The Montreal Canadiens of today are not the desperate Canadiens of decades past. We survived the era where long-term planning was often sacrificed for dubious shortcuts that never led us to the ultimate title. The current management has a very clear mantra: build through the draft, develop internally, and use cap space strategically, not as a blank check for overvalued assets. The idea of sacrificing our defensive cornerstone and a top offensive prospect for a player, however talented, who creates a cap headache and a tactical redundancy, is antithetical to everything this regime stands for. It's a classic case of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Only in this scenario, Peter is your entire defensive core, and Paul is a slightly different flavor of offensive luxury. Furthermore, the tactical implications of such a trade are disastrous. While Robert Thomas's playmaking ability is undeniable, the Canadiens' primary need is not another elite playmaking center. We have Suzuki and Kirby Dach already filling those roles, albeit with different styles. Our pressing needs are on the defensive side, particularly for a true shutdown defenseman to complement goal and consistent, gritty wingers who can finish the plays created by our centers. Bringing in Thomas would be a classic case of tactical redundancy. It's like having a Ferrari and a Porsche in your garage and spending all your remaining money buying a Lamborghini while the roof of your house is leaking. The luxury of having Thomas alongside Suzuki is undeniable, but the opportunity cost would destroy the foundations of the rest of the roster. If you lose Caden Gould in the transaction, the left side of your defense instantly collapses, and your brilliant new center will spend an entire game skating backward in the defensive zone because your blue line cannot stop a counterattack. Moreover, the logic that the St. Louis Blues will be liquidating their best player at the peak age of 26 also fails the basic test of market intelligence. Doug Armstrong is one of the most pragmatic and astute executives in the entire National Hockey League. The Blues are not in the process of imploding the franchise to ashes to start from scratch. They are in a phase of competitive retooling. Robert Thomas is precisely the kind of fundamental piece around which you build that retooling. The rumors that he was available arose from inflated conversations from insiders who needed to generate content during the news drought of February, mixed with the fact that the team had an oscillating performance. But to transform a routine phone inquiry into an aggressive desperation from Montreal is a mental gymnastics feat worthy of an Olympic medal. The article cites insider Marco D'Amico saying that patience has limits when an elite player becomes available. Yes, patience has limits. We agree with that. Kent Hughes himself has already proven that he can be surgical and lethal in the market when the right target appears at the right price, as he has done with targeted moves to acquire young, undervalued players who fit the system, such as Kirby Dach and Alex Newhook. But pay attention to the word undervalued. Our front office's business is to find market inefficiencies by low and develop high. Acquiring Robert Thomas will be buying at the historical peak of an athlete's valuation, paying the premium tax for a first-line player that carves entire chunks out of your prospect pool. This is not how a financially disciplined, long-term oriented franchise operates. The modern Montreal Canadiens fan, the nation of the Bleu Blanc Rouge, is extremely intelligent and demanding. We pack the Bell Center on Tuesday nights in the middle of brutal blizzards. We understand the chess game being played on the ice and in the offices. We endured years at the bottom of the standings precisely because we were sold the promise of a real and lasting rebuild. If the front office deviate from that route now, may a premature all-in for a single player and mortgage defensemen who are being groomed for the future, there would be a riot in the streets of the city. The process is working. The young core is maturing faster than expected, as the report itself accidentally admits in the first paragraph before diving into delirium. And when the core matures organically, the last thing you do is throw a financial grenade into the locker room. And we cannot overlook the quote about market options and pressure from other teams. The Detroit Red Wings are exploring options, and the Utah Mammoth is seen as a serious bidder. This is the oldest tactic in corporate negotiation, inflating the market to the fear of missing out, the famous FOMO. If Utah or Detroit want to burn 4 first-round assets, destroy their own salary cap, and commit until 2031 for a player whose profile already exists on our roster, Kent Hughes is the first person to hold the door open for them and wish them good luck. The Montreal Canadiens do not operate based on the anxiety of divisional neighbors. Our route has been charted on the map. The GPS is configured, and there is no deviation from the course just because a rival executive decided to panic. Therefore, when reheated articles appear on your timeline with expired deadline dates, with absurd prices that rip vital pieces from our defensive board, and with narratives that challenge the salary logic that our president of hockey operations took years to establish, you already know exactly what to do. Ignore the clickbait headline, recognize the abyss between rumor and modern NHL management, and trust that the reins of our franchise are in the hands of those who know how to operate the salary cap. The corporate autopsy is signed, and the verdict is definitive. The fake news of market aggression expired even before the fictitious date in the article itself. Our number 14 continues to lead the show. Caden Goal remains the anchor of our defensive system, and cap space will continue to be treated as the most valuable weapon in the entire league. Our war room radar continues to spin nonstop. We are armored against market delusions and always ready to deliver the raw tactical and administrative truth to you. Stay tuned to our frequency. Keep the pride of Canada's sacred hockey mantle always high, and we'll see you at the next intelligence operation. Go Habs go. The future is not for sale.